The New Balance Furon V8, crafted for speed, tested and worn by Bukayo Saka. Experience-engineered minimalism at its finest and fastest. We updated the Furon V8 for even faster performance on the pitch. Same ultra-lightweight, precision strike-focused design, now with even greater sense of speed. A new speed control stud supports control during sudden stops, sharp pivots, and moves used by the fastest players, like Saka himself. Step up your game in the new Furon V8. Learn more and get yours at newbalance.com/soccer.
There are some things in life that just shouldn't be forgotten, like bringing your keys when you leave the house, setting your fantasy lineup, and most importantly, having Hidden Valley Ranch to watch the game. Especially if you're having pizza. Those creamy, zesty, cool ranch flavors take each cheesy, melty bite to an unforgettable level. Hidden Valley Ranch. Only serious about flavor.
These days, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries. And with that, we sent away good jobs and our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make all kinds of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more, right here in the USA. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs in towns and cities across the country. And jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
Hello, Rag Squad. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Aviator Nation, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand and brilliant marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the businesses, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, who are home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning that there are way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. It's no secret, businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/ranks.
Dougie.
Sam.
There may not be a title race in England, but further afield in Europe there most certainly is. And this week we're talking Serie A, where there is a tantalising Scudetto chase that has caught people by surprise.
Raspadori standing it up, McTominay! Who else but him? Biseca's flicked it to Orsolini! It is a goal which is huge for Bologna in the race for Champions League football, but it is a goal which is massive for Napoli because the two teams are going to be level on points with 5 matches remaining.
Napoli-Inter, level on points after the last game of the season. Could it happen? If it stays like this, you will have 90 minutes, no extra time, straight to pens if after 90 minutes you are drawing. Wow. Which I think would make it super exciting. Maybe a little bit electric. I think it should happen more.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome to another episode of The Truth. I am your host, Sam Ty. I tried an Oreo ice cream sandwich for the first time today and I loved it. Hello to my co-host, Dougie Critchley.
That sounds absolutely delicious. Hello, Sam.
Hello, mate. It was, I'm not lying, it was great. Ice cream sandwiches are probably much more of a thing for the American audience than they are for the UK audience, but they're coming. Oreo has got me. Got me. And I'll give you one next week.
Nice, please do. Please do. That sounds absolutely delicious.
I'll
get my cholesterol flying.
I'll transport a frozen ice cream sandwich into the centre of London for an hour and a half, and I'll give you what's left of it. How's that?
Sounds great. Yeah, sign me up.
Right, let's be a bit less disgusting and say hello to our Voice of God producer, Jack Collins. Hello.
Hello, Sam. How you doing?
I'm good. How do you feel about ice cream sandwiches?
Yeah, I'm on board with the concept. I've not really had too many in my life, but feasibly, I like all the parts of it. I don't really see why it would be an issue.
I feel like we had one when we were kids. Was it called like the Maxi Bon or something? And it was half of it was covered in nuts.
Yeah, I didn't eat them because I didn't really like nuts as a kid, but they did exist. I appreciate.
But I think that was like the only version that we had, and I don't like nuts either, so I never ate that bit. But I liked the other half so much.
You just ate half the Maxi Bon.
I used to get half the Maxi Bon and put the other half in the bin. This is not a podcast about ice cream. This is a podcast about football. We're going to talk Serie A.
It's not about gelato.
We're going to talk about Inter and Napoli. But before we do, Jack, just a quick word with you about Fulham. Like they really did let us all down at the weekend, not just you.
Yeah, they let us all down. You know, it's like that old joke about balloon people and pins. They've let everyone down. Unfortunate. Yeah, look, just ran out of gas, unfortunately, Fulham. And after a bright start, it just dissipated in the second half. And they gave all they could. And that's all I can ask for. But it was still frustrating.
Well, I wanted more. But Southampton at the weekend, so good chance to perk up.
Yeah, we're going to be the only team that doesn't take at least 3 points off Southampton over the course of the season after drawing 0-0 against Simon Rusk at the Cottage. What have we done to have to face this man again? Like we've angered the football gods somewhat here.
You have indeed. Right, let's leave the Premier League there for the rest of the episode, and let's focus on Serie A, where there is a title chase between two clubs, Dougie, that many are shocked to see. They're shocked that this is even still a title race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unlike the ice cream sandwich you're going to bring me next week, this title race is lasting the course for sure, because there's 5 games to go in Serie A. And Inter and Napoli are tied on 71 points. But not just that, people. They have, which I absolutely love at this stage of the season, an identical record in terms of wins, draws, and losses. There are a few differences in terms of goals scored and conceded. So Inter have scored 20 more goals, but they have also conceded 7 more. And a rule that was introduced 2 seasons ago means that if the 2 teams competing for the title or to avoid relegation finish level on points, the matter must be settled with a playoff.
Yes.
And this would be epic. So this was used.
An old rule come back, Dukes. So this used to exist. So I believe this has happened once before in 1984 or 1985, where Bologna beat Inter in a playoff.
Yeah, Inter were involved in the last one and they lost.
And then they took the rule away for like 30 years and they were like, let's bring that back. So there was one in the relegation playoff a couple of years back.
Yeah, 22-23 between Spezia and Verona. And it was the 39th game to decide who should drop into Serie B. But it was a crucial weekend in Serie A, which is why I think we got round to this topic, because Napoli beat Monza 1-0 away from home with a goal from Scott McTominay, who I'm sure will come up throughout this podcast. Inter, though, lost 1-0 away at Bologna. Pretty tired display from them, thanks to a magnificent goal from Riccardo Orsolini, who scored some big ones this season. He's also scored versus Roma, he scored versus Lazio. And this is a little bit surprising that it's this tight, this deep, because Napoli finished 10th last year, and they've already got 18 more points than last season. And the biggest difference has been their defence, going from conceding 1.3 goals per game to 0.8. But we'll get into what happened last season and over the last couple of years. But Napoli are well set to challenge deep into this campaign and could even see a playoff. But Sam, I suppose a good place to start is what did happen last season and the season before, because Napoli have had one of the most dramatic couple of years in European football.
They have. This is the sort of place where you shine, Dougie. You love talking about summer business and setting the scene. So I'm actually going to throw it back to you. But before I do so, I'm just going to mention the goal difference again in this potential playoff situation, because for those that don't know, the goal difference here is both important and also not important. So Inter have a superior goal difference right now. That's why they sit top of the table. Serie A uses a head-to-head record first and foremost, but the two clubs have drawn 1-1 with each other twice, so they're identical in that sense. So they go to goal difference. Inter are ahead. They've got a better goal difference. That doesn't matter in terms of it doesn't give Inter the league if they finish level on points because they go to the playoff. It does matter, however, if they go to the playoff, because whoever has the better goal difference will host the game.
Ah, that's massive.
So this currently looks like if the two clubs cannot be separated over the next 5 games, unless there is a 13-goal swing between these two teams, this playoff would be hosted at the Giuseppe Meazza. It would not be on neutral ground, and it certainly wouldn't be in the south of Italy. So it is big, but it's also not big. You see what I mean? It's a little bit strange. So it's one to keep an eye on, just along with all the other components that are going into this, which is the form and the opponents and how these two teams do over the course of the next 5 games. But Dougie, we need to go back to last summer. We need to set the scene. I love doing this. And it kind of feels like we step into a time machine, even though it really wasn't that far back, was it? But these football seasons, they're so intense and so much happens over the course of them that it's really easy to forget quite a lot of what happened just 8 or 10 months ago. But ultimately, what Napoli did last summer, walk us through it and let me know if you think it was conducive to a potential title challenge.
Yeah, I'm even going to start the summer before, and I'll be quick with this because everyone knows the history of 22-23. Napoli win their first title in 33 years. They finished 16 points ahead of second place Lazio, absolutely blitzed the competition. That summer, they lose Kim Min-jae. Big absentee. He was amazing at Napoli, never recovered his form of that season at Bayern so far. Spalletti leaves that summer as well. He wanted to take a sabbatical. The reports were that he was unhappy with Aurelio De Laurentiis, who's Napoli's president, who will come up throughout this podcast, a really interesting character. He extended his contract without him knowing. Spalletti walked, saying he wanted to spend more time with his ducks on his Tuscan farm. Eventually, he ends up taking the Italy job just a few months later. So a real own goal from De Laurentiis. Last season was a car crash. They appoint Rudy Garcia. He's not been employed in European football for a long time, hasn't even worked in Serie A for a number of years since January 2016. His record actually by the end of the year doesn't look nearly as bad as the rest. He wins 6 of 12 league games, but loses 1-0 at home to Empoli. He is fired when they are fourth. They then hire Walter Mazzari, who is the complete opposite from Spalletti at the very least, who was Napoli coach for just under 4 years up until 2013. So it was a return of some sorts. But his most recent jobs, Cagliari, Torino, Watford, not really of the required level, wins 6 of 17 games. He's fired. They then hire Francesco Calzona, who was Slovakia coach at the time, to do a dual job until the end of the season. He wins 3 of 16 games whilst also managing Slovakia. They finish 10th. It's a car crash. So that is the situation going into last summer. What happens last summer? They lose Piotr Zielinski on a free to Inter Milan, their current title rivals this season. 8 seasons at Napoli, criminally underrated player, I think, at least in England.
Yep.
And they also lose Osimhen, who, when fit, was phenomenal for Napoli. They bring in Antonio Conte, who'd been out of work since March 2023 when he was fired by Spurs. Spurs, I think it's fair to say, is the only managerial job, at least of recent seasons, in which he has, quote, failed at since he was appointed at Juve in May 2011. So he spent 3 years at Juve. He had an unbeaten season there. They also got to 100 points. He then takes a very average Italy side to the quarterfinals of Euro 2016. They knock out Spain. He then goes to Chelsea, wins the title in his first year after that famous switch to a 3-4-3 in about November time that year. Absolutely blitzed the competition. Takes over at Inter, spends massive amounts, as we discussed in our Simone and Inzaghi episode, but still wins the league. And amazing.
What a team he built, though.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. You know, Hakimi, Lukaku, Barella. It was brilliant to watch. Then at Spurs, takes over after Nuno Espirito Santo is fired so early on in that season, takes them from 9th to 4th, and a little over 2 years later, you know, since his departure, in which he called Spurs effectively serial losers and destined to always be losers, you know, Spurs sit 16th and they've got 37 points from 33 games. So history looks back on the Antonio Conte Spurs era a lot kinder than it did at the time, but it was still a pretty outrageous ending to his time at Spurs, let's say. So what happens when Conte takes over at Napoli? Well, he does what he does at every club, and he spends big. So Buongiorno, comes in from Torino for 35 million euros. He's missed 11 games with injury this season, but when he's been fit, he's been great. Yep. Much better than Ostergaard or Juan Jesus, who were trying to do a job alongside Rahmani last year after Kim Min-jae's departure. Also spends big on Scott McTominay, 10 goals and 4 assists in 31 games for Napoli. He's been a little bit of a revelation. I think it's been brilliant to see him playing with so much freedom. Also bring in the guy he loves more than any other, Romelu Lukaku.
Here we go.
12 goals, 11 assists in 33 games. Not been at his scoring best, but a really crucial part of this side. David Neres arrives. He's been a little bit more of a rotation option, but has had some great games. They also spend big on Billy Gilmore. Rafa Marin comes in at centre-back. He's played some games as well. Spinazzola. And then in January, after they lose Kavisha Kvaratskhelia, they bring in Okafor and Philip Billing. So they did spend big this year, 151 million euros. It's the most they've spent in a season since 2019-20. That was the season they brought in Lozano and Manolas and Merit and Lobotka, etc. But the results, the results have been very good, Sam, but there is still a fair debate about how good this Napoli side are. And Conte, to his credit, has adapted more than previously we've known him for, I think it's fair to say.
Well, I think they've spent... he's used a couple of different shapes this season. Hasn't been shy to move about a bit with the fitness of players. But he spent the majority of the season in a 4-3-3. I think every single time I've seen Napoli play, it's been with a 4-3-3, which in my estimation is Conte's third favourite formation. I think he likes the 3-4-3 and the 3-5-2 better than the 4-3-3. So third favourite formation, but there is a nice amount of flexibility to a 4-3-3. You can do quite a lot with it, and you can move players around within it and make it into something else. So that has kind of suited him. And I do appreciate that the performances have declined, I guess, over the course of the season. It's probably fair to say. Like, I started this morning, perks of the job. I just did an absolute like a marathon of Napoli footage this morning, and I watched from like just after Christmas all the way through. And this was after you text me to say that you weren't too sure about, the sort of quality of football that Napoli were playing. And I'd seen the reaction to a lot of people. Like, I watched the CBS Sports segments, and you've got Marco Messina and Matteo Bonetti saying stuff like, this team don't play good football. They cannot be allowed to win the title. And I'm like, okay, let's track it. Let's have a look. Because early in the season, obviously, they were putting together some really good performances. But if you watch all 16 of Napoli's games post-Christmas, one after the other, in expedited format as I did, you see it just grind to a halt. Like, it's really tough to watch at points. And it's weird, because in January, they looked awesome. Like, there's like a 3-game bubble where they've just lost Kvara, but he's not really gone in theory, and they're still fine. Everything's okay. Kvara's gone, but we're okay. We've got momentum. And it just starts to slope off. And I think Buongiorno gets injured around the same time. So you've lost Buongiorno and Kvara for Buongiorno's out for about 6 weeks, I think it is, in the end. And you've lost Kvara for good. But it takes its toll on the team. But at the same time, they've put the points on the board. Like, the points per game is barely different. The XG per game is barely different. And the goals per game is barely different. While it doesn't look great under the hood, the actual output itself has kept them firmly in this title race and has put them in a position where, with 5 games to go, they can actually do this. So I don't want to get too picky on them. I get what you mean, and I'm happy to sit here and talk about the good bits as well. But I have noticed through the highlight marathon, it's just got worse and worse.
I would just add quickly, Sam, just on the formations point, that Conte did come up kind of playing the 4-3-3, right? It was his bread and butter at Juventus. It was only really when he moved to the Premier League that the 3-4-3 became, au fait, I suppose, quite as much within his system.
He tried it first off with Chelsea, didn't he? And it was rubbish.
But then it was good. It was like one of those things. It happened and it was bad, and then it wasn't bad anymore. And then suddenly it looked really good. And suddenly Victor Moses was one of the most hottest properties in Europe, and all sorts of things started happening that were weird. But actually, that 4-3-3 is something he's reverted to. And I wonder if there is something about just the stylistic nature of Serie A that allows him to play in a slightly different way. And I take your point about it being a relatively versatile formation. I thought it was just worth pointing out.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's assembled a squad that suits a 4-3-3, right? That's kind of it. Look at the midfield combination of McTominay and Zambo Anguissa, and with Lobotka sat behind them. You want Lobotka playing as the lone pivot, right? That's where you need to play Lobotka, because he's one of the best ball circulating deep midfielders in the world. So put him in a position to shine. And then if you've got McTominay and Anguissa, they're so physical. This is a midfield pairing that can overpower just about anything else that Serie A has to offer. And this is one of the easiest ways to define the meta in Serie A over the last 5 years. Milan did it a little bit with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, just have him run through everyone. It's a league that tends to struggle with that kind of player. And look at what he's asked McTominay to do from the left 8 position. He makes loads of stretching runs. No, Lukaku drops towards the ball. McTominay runs ahead. McTominay looks like the striker half the time in terms of build-up play. And of course, he crashes the box, he scores headers, and how many goals was it, Dougie? It was 11 in all competitions.
Yes, 11.
And I think it's 9 in Serie A or something. It's been tremendous, but Conte knows how to get the best out of his players. And so the formation, it becomes something of an afterthought at points, and rightly so, because really he just sculpts a system that makes the most of his players. And for him, it was Lukaku, Lobotka and McTominay, I think, were the 3 that he was like, if I can get these 3 in the right positions, I can do this.
Yeah, I think it's a real feel-good story, the Scott McTominay one, because this is a guy that took a lot of flack at United for a long, long time. I think he joined United at something like 5 or 6. It must have been so hurtful to constantly be sort of earmarked as the problem at the club, and English football fans love to do this.
Like the exact player that was the reason why United aren't top.
Yeah, right? For sure.
It's players like him, we would say.
Absolutely. I mean, United and English football fans, and I don't want to just put this on United fans, but I think English football fans love to say one thing is the problem, one thing is the reason for success. And for a long time, it was McTominay and Fred. Then it more evolved into Maguire, but he was never really loved, at least by the general public, as potentially he probably should have. And his scoring record for Scotland when he played further forward was really, really impressive. And he could also play a centre-back. He was a really versatile player, but it was really nice reading some reports in the last few months just saying how much he's loving playing in Napoli. He's been bigging up Italian tomatoes, which I particularly enjoyed. Just said they're completely different level, which I've experienced firsthand as well, and it is a different story. But there's a couple of players that deserve a shout out.
Dougie, before you go there, actually, on McTominay, on my megathon of highlights earlier, he it's an early game. I think it was against Hellas Verona. He spanked a shot over the bar, and it was a very presentable chance, and he should have scored. The camera zooms in on him, and I swear to you, he shouts, "Mamma mia!" I swear it happened, and then a few seconds later, as if becoming self-aware of what was happening, he shouts, "Fuck off." It's one after the other.
That is so good.
Unreal.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Italian hands to come out. I'm sure it's going to be not too long.
There are some things in life that just shouldn't be forgotten. Like bringing your keys when you leave the house, setting your fantasy lineup, and most importantly, having Hidden Valley Ranch to watch the game. Especially if wings are on the menu. Those creamy, zesty Cool Ranch flavors take each spicy, savory bite to an unforgettable level. Hidden Valley Ranch. Only serious about flavor.
These days, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries. And with that, we sent away good jobs and our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make all kinds of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more, right here in the USA. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs in towns and cities across the country. And jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
Hello, Rag Squad. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Aviator Nation, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand and brilliant marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the businesses, making selling and for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, who are home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning that there are way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going... So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. It's no secret. Businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/ranks.
But I think Rahmani deserves a big shout out as well. I think he's had a really excellent season. And this is a guy that I never potentially gave as much credit to at the time, because there was always more eye-catching players, particularly going forward in Napoli's heyday. You know, Osimhen and Kavisha in midfield, and Gisa and Lobotka were so watchable. At the back, I'd always love watching Di Lorenzo or something. But Rahmani's had a brilliant season, I think, this year. You know, he's first for passes completed in the Napoli squad, third for passes into the final third as well, and then sixth for clearances in Serie A. And Napoli have had to face a little bit more pressure than a side you'd expect challenging for the league. They aren't a side that dominate possession, but massive respect to him for really establishing himself as one of the best defenders in Serie A. And I think losing your spark in January, the player that was your most maverick, your most entertaining, your best player, and making do with Politano, who I think is a really useful player to have, and David Neres, who's kind of been up and down throughout his entire career, alongside Lukaku and McTominay. I think that's pretty impressive for Conte to take this side so deep. But I think it's fair to say they're on track for 81 points, which is 28 more than the previous campaign. But they finished with more points than that in 4 of the last 10 completed seasons, including that 3 in a row under Sarri, where they definitely played better football back then. 27 sides in Europe have scored more than their 52 league goals. That includes Brighton and Wolfsburg, who I think by even their standards are having amazing campaigns. Their goal difference right now is plus 27. That's 10th best in Europe. That's between Bayer Leverkusen and Atletico Madrid.
That's pretty good.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad, but it's not.
It's pretty good.
It's not title. It's not as sort of mouth-watering, as eye-boggling as previous Serie A winners. And I've got massive respect for them staying the course, etc. And their defence has been brilliant. You know, they've conceded the fewest goals in the entirety of Europe. But it's not a title win that I would remember that fondly. But then at the same time, and I'm sure we'll come on to this, Inter Milan, for a variety of reasons, be that injuries, be that the amount of games they've had to play, and the fact they're in every competition still now, and the fact there's been a little bit of a drop-off from players like Lautaro Martinez, who was absolutely sensational last year, have meant that the door is ajar, and you can just imagine Napoli sort of going through and winning. It's definitely not by default, but it won't be a particularly romantic title win, for me at least.
No, I understand. Before we sort of open the book on Inter, just some supporting evidence for Napoli are bad, actually. Recently went 5 away games without a win, 4 draws and a loss, and they've just scraped past Monza, just 1-0, who are 20th, and I think are about a week from being confirmed as relegated. And Napoli's record recently is 1-4 of 11. I mean, that's not title charging form, is it? 1-4 of 11. That's hanging on. That's 12th place stuff. So it is getting worse. The football is kind of derailing itself, I guess. And some of these results have been squeaked. I watched them play Milan last month. They won 2-1. God knows how.
Yeah.
God knows how. I mean, it did include a saved penalty by Alex Merritt, which was great. He's had some pretty big moments this season. But yeah, it's been a bit tough, and I'll just point you to some very recent Antonio Conte quotes in case you haven't seen them. During my 8 months at Napoli, I've come to understand there's lots of things you can't do here. Whoever hires Conte always says finish first or second, even if they finished 10th last season. It's not enough to fight for Europe. The ambition and the expectation is always to rise, which that should be. I don't understand why he's talking about that. He himself is the most demanding manager possibly of all time. So he can't complain when there's demands, ambitions, and expectations placed on his shoulders, because that is reciprocal, right? Anyway, he went on to say, there has to be a serious plan, not just the fruit of miracles. I have great affection for De Laurentiis and his family, and we will talk. But the Neapolitan fans want to win, and if they don't win, they get nasty. I don't want to be massacred. I have to protect myself. If we can, then we will do it together. But if not, it will have been a beautiful journey. He's signing off. Yeah. Like, lad, there's 5 games left of the whole season. Like, it's so Conte. And there's been a big debate I've seen on my timeline about, like, what is he trying to achieve with these comments? Is this him distancing himself from what he thinks is going to be ultimately a second place finish, and just trying to say, hey, you were 10th last year, mate. This is pretty good. Or is he just trying to take the pressure off the players? does he think that this will actually help them? Because behind closed doors, he just says to them, "Don't listen to a word I've just said in that interview. Like, I have full belief in you. I'm just piling the pressure on Inter here, who are knackered and stretched."
Yeah, it's classic Conte. It's also, this whole situation is quite classic De Laurentiis, like sort of seesawing between different personalities, different styles. De Laurentiis is also prone to kind of taking a lot of the glory for himself when things are going well as well, and kind of blaming everyone but him when things go badly. But it's a strange time to do it, as you say, because there is a very, very, very good chance they win the league this year. And I think it's mainly down to fixtures and fixture congestion. Inter's remaining games, or lack of. You'll know by the time this comes out whether it's Inter or Milan in the Coppa Italia final, but that took place on Wednesday. That's 1-1 after the first leg. That's going to be a really intense game. If Inter make it through, they'll play Bologna in the final, who, well, unless something really dramatic happens against Empoli, but they're 3-0 up after the first leg. They
then play Bologna in the final.
Yeah.
Let's be very clear.
And it should be an absolute classic because Bologna have been brilliant in the last few months in particular. But their remaining games, Roma, Barcelona away, Hellas Verona, which sounds fairly easy, but 14th still. They don't play a side below 14th remaining fixtures-wise. Then there's Barcelona at home. That tie is going to take so much out of you. That feels like mentally, physically, it's such a good opportunity for Inter to reach another Champions League final. Then they play Torino away, Lazio at home, and then Como away on the final day. And Nico Paz and Diao are playing exceptionally well. I think Fabregas has done a really good job there. He's been backed heavily, but they are playing some great football at the moment. Napoli's remaining games are Torino, who are 10th, Lecce, 17th, Genoa, 12th, Parma, 16th, and Cagliari, who are 15th on the final day. That is a walk in the park compared to Inter's.
Well, I mean, there's three teams in the relegation scrap there, mate. They get their claws out at this time of year.
I still think it's so much easier.
I mean, obviously, it is easier. Look, Milan in the Coppa semi, Roma, Barca, Hellas Verona, Barca again, and then Che Adams to follow it up.
Horrible.
I mean,
if you want to simplify this, and it's something Dean and I spoke about on Wednesday's Ranks episode, if Inter were to get through to the Coppa Italia final and the Champions League final, which are still ifs, but it's plausible, they would have 10 games left this season. Napoli have 5. Mm-hmm. Like, just in terms of pure breaks between games, it would mean that they have a midweek fixture every single week until the end of the season, whereas Napoli have Saturday, 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 Saturday. That is as good as you could ask for when you're Antonio Conte.
And just to ram home the point just even further, you look at Inter's injuries at the moment. Zielinski's out, Dumfries is out, Thuram's missed games recently. There are 6 players in their squad that are 1 game away from a yellow card suspension. 7 players in Inter's squad have played at least 40 games. The most games any Napoli player has played this season is 34, and that's Armani, Di Lorenzo, and Politano. So already 7 players have played more than 40. Not a single Napoli player has played more than 36. And trust me, 6 games might not sound like a crazy amount. At this stage of the season, it's a huge amount. And there could be more games to come as well.
It is a significant margin, and it may only grow. And I'll direct you to Nico Barella and his quotes from the weekend, where he acknowledged, "We're definitely tired after Inter lost to Bologna in the last minute. There is tiredness, but we are not backing down." And look, I'll say this about Inter: the mentality of the club of this squad is phenomenal. They never give up, they never back down, and they are genuinely a brilliant team with a brilliant mentality. But if you pick up a couple of injuries here and there, it's not necessarily about the injury, it's about that robbing you of the ability to rotate the team and keep them fresh. And when you have the game every 3.5 days, it absolutely kills you. So Barella is going to have to play 3 times in 7 days. And it's not just 3 times in 7 days. It's Milan in the Coppa semi, it's Roma, and then it's Barcelona. Oh. And there's going to be like 8 of them that have to play those 3 in succession. And then of course you get to the Verona game and you're like, oh, I can take a breath. And that's when you're at your most vulnerable. Right there is when you go, oh, hang on a minute. So this looks incredibly difficult for Inter. They have like really messed up by losing to Bologna here and bringing Napoli back into this situation, which I think most of us thought, oh, okay, well, probably not then. probably even 3 points would feel like quite a big margin at this stage, given the fact that Napoli just frankly don't look that good. But they look good enough to win those 5 games or get, let's say, 12 points.
13 points.
13 points.
I think if they get 13 points, do you think Inter get 13 points from their last 5 games? This is the question I was tossing up on Wednesday. Like, I actually think that there is a relatively high chance that Napoli win all 5 of these games, considering the opposition, the caliber of opposition, and the fact they're playing 1 game a week from here on in. I think that when you're kind of looking at it from that perspective, Inter probably need to win all 5 of their games to win the league, and even that might end up being the playoff. That is a big, big pressure cooker when Inter have Lazio and Roma in the league, and a Como side who have really found their groove in recent weeks, and a Parma side. Actually, both of them have to play Parma side, but like Parma just draw every game. It doesn't matter who it is, who it's against, they just draw. So like, I think that if Inter win, Inter probably need to win all 5 of their games to win the league outright. And even that might not be enough. I think they lose any of these 5 games or they draw more than 1 and it's done and dusted.
Yeah, I worry even about this weekend. Like Roma under Claudio Ranieri have been brilliant. Like players are, despite the fact there's no Dybala there at the moment, Sule is playing brilliantly well. Even Shomurodov, who was kind of the forgotten man of that Mourinho splurge that summer, playing brilliant football at the moment. I think that's a really tough test. And then it's not like you've got, for some reason, you've ended up with, no disrespect to these teams, like a Villarreal in the Champions League semi-final, or like years ago, like a Schalke. Barcelona are a horrible team to play against if you're already a bit tired. I think this is Napoli's. I think this is Napoli's, and I'm going to be very sad about it.
You're going to be sad about it?
I'm going to be sad about it, yeah. I'm a bit of a closet Inter fan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not so closet anymore, though.
Yeah, just announce that to the world. I've been really hot on this Inter side, but I am a bit concerned that they might go from potentially winning a treble to winning absolutely nothing over the course of the end of this season, and that's a pretty scary place to be.
Bayer Leverkusen style.
Yeah, that's not nice. I mean, I do have a love for this Inter side too, which was basically born through Antonio Conte when he built the skeleton of it, and they won the Scudetto and took that streak off Juventus. And this was during the ranks era for me, Jack, and we were cheering it on, weekly. I watched probably every Inter game for like 11 weeks straight. I was absolutely like glued to it. Yeah. And, of course, there's other reasons to watch it too. Like Nico Barella's a phenomenal footballer. Hakimi is doing crazy things on the wing, and Lukaku is playing his best ever football. There's more reasons to watch it than I hope Juve don't win the title. But it creates something, right? And this team feels very similar still. So and Inzaghi has helped cement that because he hasn't changed the shape. So even if some of the personnel has changed, it's still kind of that into 3-5-2, big man, small man, wing backs. It just looks the same. So I do really like them, and I would also like them to win, but I don't care too much. So I'm not too worried about jinxing it. And I'm going to say that Napoli do it. But I said Atletico would do it, and look where they are. I really fancied Atleti to take the step, and they're like 10 points off now.
Yeah, they have really fallen off, haven't they? But I just don't think you'll be wrong with this one. Either way, I think it's going right to the very end. So it's a fascinating time to discuss
What we really want is the playoff.
Yeah. I mean, Europe kind of needs it because I know Real Madrid, that goal from Fede Valverde, absolutely massive, but the other one's completely wrapped up, really, I would say.
Yeah, so hang on, 25th, Como on the so they play Como on the 25th. That's the final day of the season. When would they play this game? Because if Inter were to reach the Champions League final, that would be the following Saturday, right?
That makes it so interesting. You're like, what are you going to do? Wait 2 weeks? You're going to wait 2 weeks till the Champions League final is over. So like you play your hearts out in the Champions League final. You're like, oh, still got to play this bloody playoff.
I assume it would have to be, though. It can't be midweek 3-4 days before.
I think they would do it midweek.
I'm pretty sure that Spezia game, the Spezia Verona one we spoke about earlier, was actually on a midweek.
That's cruel.
I think I remember, watching it in the evening on like a Wednesday. I mean, like, what is going on here? But then also, like, surely the Italian Federation, if they have a side in the Champions League final, would want them to be in their best possible shape for the Champions League final. We're seeing the French league postpone PSG games so that they can play, just Champions League game after Champions League game because it just doesn't really matter in the greater context of the league right now. Like, I just don't understand what the Federation would do in that regard. Surely they want to have a continental champion as much as Inter would want to win it themselves if they were there.
I do not know. Very interesting. Adds another layer to it. It's too much football on, lads. It's too much football on.
End of May, start of June's going to be mad.
Okay.
The football's on.
So are we all in agreement that, one, we all believe that Napoli are going to win enough games here to secure the title?
At least take it to a playoff. I don't think Inter win this in the regular season.
Okay. Are we all in agreement that the best possible scenario here is for the playoff to happen?
Oh, yeah. Like, not if you're an Inter or a Napoli fan. Obviously, you don't want this. Obviously, you want nothing to do with this. Also, the other thing with the playoff game, if it comes to fruition, is that there is no extra time. If it's level at 90 minutes, it depends.
Penalties for the title. Are you?
That is wild. Wild.
Let's do it.
Let's do it anyway.
We should get out there.
Let's just do it anyway. Unbelievable. Right. Well, we've got that to look forward to. We'll have to see. I mean, good luck to Inter. This is a hell of a schedule to negotiate here. You've got all the pressure on you. Conte is piling the pressure on you. You've got a Napoli team to beat over the course of 5 remaining Serie A games. Oh, and of course, you've got Coppa Italia semi-finals. You've got Champions League semi-finals, first leg, second legs against Barcelona. It is going to be a very tough time for this squad. If they come through
for tyres, mate. Precious for tyres.
I'd forgotten about
Let's
that.
Let's get Shearer doing the voiceover of the Serie A playoff.
Oh, mate, just incredible. But what an incredible task this is for Inter. If they do this, if they outlast Napoli while having all this on their plate, fair enough. Simone Inzaghi might just win that move to Real Madrid, Dougie.
He's off. He's off with a treble, Mourinho style.
Nice. All right. That about wraps it up for us this week. Lovely to chat about that, lads. Dougie, thank you for presenting the topic to us. It was a good one. And thanks for collaborating and for offering your wisdom. I think you've probably seen a little bit more Napoli than me. So good to have someone to bounce off.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, I'm rooting for my boys, the Nerazzurri.
Jack, thank you as well.
Thank you, Sam. Always a pleasure.
Who are you supporting?
Fiorentina, as usual.
No.
No, I'm not wild on this Napoli side, and I've been really, really hot on Inter all year, but I have watched things unfold in Naples and been there when a game has been won, and it is just an unbelievably special place. So I would enjoy it if Scott Francis McTominay was the man that brought the Scudetto back to the Maradona.
Absolutely. Incredible. Right. And I'll tell you who else would really appreciate this. If Kvaradona needs any more medals from this season, I mean, he's running the serious risk here of winning 2 league titles and a Champions League.
What campaign?
Incredible personal
Richie Delat style.
The Richie Delat. It's the upmarket Richie Delat, isn't it? It's the platinum tier Richie. What did he get? Premier League Championship.
Premier League Championship, yeah. Really special.
I prefer League Serie A Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Respect.
It's got a better ring to it. All right. Rank Squad, thank you as well for joining us. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of casino-style games like bingo, slots, and solitaire anytime, anywhere with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. T&Cs apply.
Hello, Rank Squad. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Aviator Nation, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the businesses, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, who are home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning that there are way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. It's no secret, businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/ranks.